Hello again. The rest of Chapter 3. This is going to be Chapter 3B in critical thinking. I say way too much. The big deal with this section is argument patterns, and then I always like to say, and now for something completely different, diagramming arguments. So we're going to do this in two sections. I'm going to put some other things on the board as well as we kind of go along. And we're just going to work through this. This is one of those things that it's weird, it's different, but it makes sense. It works together. So we're kind of working on that. We still have our big words, deductive and inductive, argument, critical thinking, all those things. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that kind of as we go along. So, since argument forms are structures distinct from argument content, we can easily signify different forms by using letters to represent the statements in the arguments. Okay, we have all kinds of fun with this, and I'm going to use my own pieces so that you have a few more examples. Okay, I use these a lot, so let's do it. So our argument patterns, we're going to look here. These are all valid. Okay, modus ponens and modus tollens, Latin stuff that he says it's not a big deal, and then we use it the whole rest of the book, so you might as well get used to it. Hypothetical syllogisms, disjunctive syllogism, and then a couple of invalid forms that are useful because they're kind of what we do, but not in the right order. So we'll get to that. Okay, here's the first one. This is modus ponens, and modus ponens is really is that what we say? Accepting? Affirming the antecedent. Now, what's an antecedent? Well, an antecedent is the first, that's why it has ante, before. It's the first part of a conditional sentence, a conditional statement. So a conditional statement begins with if, has clause, and then says then, okay? So that's affirming the antecedent, so we're going to get to that in a minute. Okay, might say, if there's chocolate in the house, I could have written those up before I started this, right? But I didn't, so you have to do it with me. Then I am happy. There's chocolate in the house. Period. So I am happy. Now, technically, this so should be a therefore because that's the most desirable, normal word. But it's long, so I say so. It works. Okay? So that first sentence there that told us, hey, we could take an argument like this and we want to figure out if the structure works. And so instead of using all the words, we're going to say all these words are P. All these words are Q. Okay, and the way we always do it is we mark the first one, the first thing you come across, regardless of how it says. There's chocolate in the house. I'm going to call that P. So everywhere else in my argument that there's chocolate in the house is the phrasing. I'm going to change it to P. Okay, so here we begin. The fun thing is, for these short little guys, it's just one thing. Okay, so already I can say if P, then something else. And then the second one is just P. Okay, like that. And then, so we've got two phrases here. We have three statements. So this is a syllogism. Okay, syllogism just means there's three. There are lots of different kinds of syllogisms, so we're going to get to that as well. But if there's chocolate in the house is my P. I am happy is my Q here as well. So then I have my argument. I can state it like this, and then when we get to, I think it's chapter 8 now. I told you they added a chapter. They added chapter 6, and so now I have to remember in my head. Okay, what does that make everybody? But anyway, modus ponens is affirming the antecedent. So in my conditional sentence is my first one here. If there's chocolate in the house, then I am happy. Okay, this is the antecedent. This is the consequent. Okay, so we'll play with those a little bit later. So if there's chocolate in the house, then I'm happy. There's chocolate in the house, so I am happy. Doesn't sound like much of an argument, but the structure works. Okay, if P, then Q. P, so Q. Oh, I should have this so there. I should have had a different color, but it's okay. So that's not too horrible. My examples. The other one in this same kind of format is modus tollens, and it is denying the consequent. Okay, and if you remember both of those, less likely to put it together wrong. So I'm going to use the same argument and just put it in that format. So if there's chocolate in the house, then I am happy. Same conditional, so I can show you this, denying the consequences. Okay, denying the consequent, sorry. So my next step is to deny the consequent. I am not happy. So there's no chocolate in the house. Okay? Very similar, but I'm taking the consequent, denying it, saying no, so that this here is also no. And it's the same guys, right? The same phrasing. So chocolate in the house is my P. Not P here, because it's no chocolate. It's very important to include the nots because they do make a huge difference on what we're doing. Sorry, I left off screen. I am happy is still my Q. So this is a not Q. So I end up with very similar, okay? So if, then, not, so, not. And then I'll give you the colors. I didn't do the colors right. Bothers me when I don't do the colors right, but anyway. If P, then Q. Not Q, so not P. Be careful when you're writing these out and you're labeling them. And when I tell you to label something, this is what I mean, P's and Q's, okay? Yes, we have two premises and a conclusion. I want you to label with the letters, okay? I used to give you more options than that, but that doesn't work very well, so. P's and Q's, okay? And you know that statement, mind your P's and Q's. Okay, pay attention to the details, do what you know you're supposed to do. It comes from this, okay, P's and Q's. So Dr. Vaughn gives us a bunch of explanations and examples and such. And these two are always valid. These formats, if your argument fits into this format, it's valid because the structure works. Same thing for modus ponens. If P then Q, P, so Q, it fits, okay? You can put any kind of, if you can put your argument into this, you're great. You have valid, 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 okay? We have two more valid forms. And they're both syllogisms, but they're very different. One is all conditional, and the other is a different format totally. So, what do we got first? Hypothetical syllogism. Okay, so hypothetical just means conditional as well. Okay, so it's a conditional syllogism. It is 3 statements, because it's a syllogism, all conditional. Our modus ponens and our modus tollens are also syllogisms. They have 3 parts, but they have different, they only have one conditional. They start with the conditional and then they give us the parts. Okay, so a hypothetical syllogism, all are conditional. Okay, and it's a daisy chain. If, then. So this one is kind of a chocolate stir fry. Maybe I was hungry when I was doing these. If we have rice, then I'll make stir fry. If I make stir fry, then we'll eat lots of veggies. Okay, so if we have rice, then we will eat lots of veggies. Okay, so this format is always valid. Okay, doesn't mean any 3 random conditionals are valid. These are valid. Okay, so let's do this right. So always, my first phrase is my P. We have rice as P. So I look, and here it is again. Okay, there's my other P. Q, I will make stir fry. My second new phrase is always Q. There's stir fry. Okay, here's stir fry. And then we will eat lots of veggies. We've done P and Q. We have a third new statement. So it's an R. PQR. Okay. Now, in this class, in our Critical Thinking Humanities 115 class, we will only ever go as far as 3 variables. So if you think we have 5 variables, go back and try again. Not every phrasing will be identical throughout the argument. We like it that way, but you know. So this time we have, let me give my little structure here. We have if P, then Q. If Q, then R. So if P, then R. And I know I was going to do pick colors, but so you've seen these kinds of things in algebra all the time, right? So if A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C, right? My sum total of math, no, not really, If P then Q, if Q then R. So you see the daisy chain has to be this way. The first conditional and consequent comes into the next conditional as the antecedent. Same thing for the Q, okay? And then P, R, we're gonna have some fun with those a little later, but that's your format. It's always, always valid. If you can fit your argument into this format, it's valid every time, okay? Now, the last one is a little bit weird. I know, everything in this class is weird. It's a disjunctive syllogism. So it has 3 lines, okay? This is 3 statements, and it's kind of, this is the thing about it, is it's often as a choice, okay? So it does not start, it has no conditional statements, none. Very weird, I know. So either we will have tacos. I didn't do that right. Anyway, either we will have tacos or we will have burgers. We had tacos. So, we had tacos, right? So, we cannot have burgers. Okay, now, in this particular ta-da, we can flip this 4 different ways. And I'm going to give you those here in just a minute, but I want to walk through this first. Okay, so either we will have tacos, that's my first phrasing, so that's my P, and we go here, okay, P again, and then, or we will have burgers, that's my Q, and here's a not Q, okay, so P or Q, P, so not Q. Okay? Now, all of these, we have 4 different ways this can go. Okay? I'm just going to do the P's and Q's thing. So either we will have tacos or we will have burgers. We had tacos, so we cannot have burgers. Okay, so that's this one. Either we can have tacos or we can have burgers. We did not have tacos, so we did have burgers. Not so bad. Again, P or Q, we're going to have, either we will have tacos or we'll have burgers. We had burgers, so not tacos. So P or Q, Q, we had we had burgers, so we will not have tacos. Okay, just make sure your P's and Q's follow from what you actually have, okay? So P or Q again, last one, not burgers, so tacos. So in each of these, we have to have 1 yes and 1 no. That's our choice, yes or no, we can't have both, okay? So the upshot of this is basically we have the structures that are always valid, okay? We have a couple structures that are always invalid, and I want to kind of, I'm not going to put them on the board. I'm going to just talk to you about them a little bit. There is a review notes box on page 86 that gives you the valid argument forms, the first 3 that we talked about. The disjunctive is a little bit later because he wanted to separate. Here's these things that look like modus ponens, but they're not. Okay, that's the invalid forms. In modus ponens, we affirm the antecedent. Okay, so we affirm that first one. We say, if P, then Q. Yes to P, and so yes to Q. That's how that works. And then for modus tollens, it's if P, then Q, not Q, so not P. So both of them are nots, okay? Now, these ones that are invalid, we have something called affirming the consequent. And basically it says, if Buffalo, well, okay, if P, then Q. Q, so P. And he has as his example, if Buffalo is the capital of New York, then Buffalo is in New York. Buffalo is in New York, so Buffalo is the capital of New York. And in case you're curious, Buffalo is not the capital of New York, okay? Both of those premises are true, okay? The capital of a state needs to be in that state. Buffalo is in that state. Buffalo is not the capital of New York. Albany is, okay? The other one that is a mess is denying the antecedent, okay? So our big deal, it's, the same. If P, then Q. Not P, so not the first piece, so not Q. And these both look like normal valid arguments, but they're in the wrong order, okay? So for this denying the antecedent, Dr. Vaughn's example is, if Einstein invented the steam engine, then he's a great scientist. Einstein did not invent the steam engine, so he's not a great scientist. Okay, the first two, true. Okay, whoever invented the steam engine was a great scientist. Einstein wasn't him, but Einstein is a great scientist, so the conclusion is false. So we have two true premises and a false conclusion. This is an invalid argument. Okay, so keep that in mind. There's a review notes box on page 88 that has the invalid argument forms. There's one other thing that the book spends a little bit of time on, and we're not going to spend our time on it because it's kind of silly in my mind. And that's with counterexamples. And basically what it is if you're not sure whether an argument is valid, okay, basically true premises, true conclusion, if you set up that particular format and give it both true premises from a different argument, you can see that it's either valid or invalid, okay? I don't think it's necessary. So far so good. We have 4 valid argument types. I'm going to have you on different things. You're going to practice a little bit what these look like, how they look, how they talk, how they say things. And then the invalid forms, I'm going to kind of lay to the wayside. You need to make sure that disjunctive syllogisms have 4 types, 4 structures. Hypothetical syllogism is a daisy chain or a chain argument. And then our modus ponens and modus tollens, very specific, affirm the first, deny the second. Okay, so that's how those go. I'm going to erase some of this because I want to get to the, no, I'm not. We're just going to talk about this. Sorry. In section 3.5, it's called diagramming arguments. And like I said, I always think of this as a noun for something completely different. Basically, diagramming an argument makes it easier for us to see the connections both between the premises, because some of them are very dependent on each other, and how those premises support the conclusion. It's a weird little way of doing things, but it's okay. We'll get there. Okay. Page 92 to 95 has all a bunch of examples, so you'll be fine. Here are your steps, though, and this is also on page 95 in a review notes box. Okay, kind of laid down. The first thing we do, if we're going to diagram an argument, is to circle all the premise or conclusion indicator words. Okay, and then number the statements from the very first one to the last one, but just the statements. So if you're going to run across a question or a command or an exclamation, you don't number those, okay? Then find the conclusion, that's what we're supposed to do, right? And draw a wavy line under it. And then find the premises, underline them, okay? Fourth, cross out all the extraneous materials. Anything that is repeated, irrelevant, questions, exclamations, that kind of stuff. You just cross them all out. And then all you're left with is what actually counts for the argument, the premises and the conclusion. And with those original numbers, you can show us the different connections, okay? And he does a little bit weird. I'm going to make this go away for just a minute. Well, forever, but. So if I have a 5-sentence argument, okay, and my conclusion is at the end, I put that 5 here at the bottom, okay? Now I have to figure out 1, 2, 3, and 4, okay? So the first two are dependent on each other, so they go together like that, 1 plus 2. Okay, this is a dependent, these are dependent premises, and I'm going to give you that definition in a minute. Okay, and they relate directly to number 5. So number 3, the third sentence, the third statement is actually only related. You have to get to number 4 through number 3. Okay, and then that's to number 5. That's a fairly complex paragraph, believe it or not. And you have dependent premises, and you have independent premises. And really what these mean, the big difference here is independent premises are not impacted by the truth or support of another premise. If you take that one out, if I took number 3 out, you would still have all the others. The argument would not be affected except for losing that information, okay? Now, if, say, sentence 1 was unfounded and we had to make it go away, we had to delete it, we're not sure if number 2 would still be able to stand. Depends a lot upon what the actual argument is. Sometimes it just weakens it, sometimes it negates it altogether when you get rid of the other one, okay? So an independent premise, officially, offers support to a conclusion without the help of any other premises, and this is on page 93. If other premises are deleted or undermine the argument, this premise is not affected and its support does not change. A dependent premises, depend on each other to jointly supply support to a conclusion. If either premise is removed, the support that the remaining premise supplies is undermined or completely canceled out. Okay, like I said, Dr. Vaughn walks you through, I think, 4 different examples on pages 92 to 95. So there's those. Let's see, what else do we have? Oh, that's the end. That's the end. So make sure in this section that you're keeping track of which structures are automatically valid and which structures you have to kind of play with to get there, okay? Chapter 3 is a little bit weird, but it does lay the groundwork for a whole bunch of the rest of the book. Basically chapters 8 through 13 are based on the stuff in this chapter. So take time with it, read well. Hopefully this little video helped you a little bit. We'll see how that goes, huh? So anyway, have a great day. I hope everything's going well for you. If you have questions, you know how to get a hold of me. You have my email.